as of December 2012. This statistics, of course, calls for renewed action for further scale-up services, especially preventive programs.
The further said that the fight against HIV and AIDS is among government's priorities.
We have invested so much in creating the structures at all levels. However, we will continue to solicit your financial as well as technical support to consolidate our gains. I've listened to the representative of the UN system in the Gambia, and he highlighted the issue that we must work together. We must collaborate and save resources and plan together. And I think we should heed that advice as we discuss the plan that is put forward towards the elimination of mother-to-child transmission in the Gambia.
Dr. Babagana Amadou, the FAO resident representative, spoke of the need to maximize efforts to eliminate HIV infection among children and mothers.
Your Excellencies, the main objective of today's meeting is therefore for us to seriously consider how we can maximize our limited resources and in partnership to eliminate HIV infection among children and to keep their mothers alive. The UN system in the Gambia has been a long-standing partner of the government in supporting the national response to HIV and AIDS since the first case was discovered in the Gambia.
This one-day forum is a multi-sectoral approach that brings together stakeholders to discuss and share insights on how to eliminate mother-to-child transmission of HIV and AIDS in the Gambia. Mamadou Diallo, GRTS News.
Well, we're going to take a very short break now. The news continues in just a moment. Welcome back to GRTS News. Leaders of the BRICS group have concluded a summit in South Africa with plans to create a development bank. The group that comprises emerging powers, Brazil, China, India, Russia and South Africa, is hoping to provide an alternative to the World Bank and counter the effects of the recent global economic crisis. Let's look at this report for more on that.
Powerful image ended the 5th summit of the BRICS group in Durban. Leaders of the 5 emerging powers, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, are seeking to form a new development bank, an institution seen as an alternative to the Western-dominated World Bank to fund infrastructure and counter the West's dragging economic crisis.
We have decided to enter formal negotiations to establish a BRICS-led new development bank based on our own considerable infrastructure needs, which amounts to around 4.5 trillion US dollars over the next 5 years.
But the alliance is not free of deep differences. The BRICS group failed to launch the much-anticipated bank in question, which needs to have a $50 billion starting balance. The issue will be brought up at the next G20 summit. There was agreement, however, on the creation of an economic council. It will reinforce trade relations among BRICS economies, which account for 25% of global output.
Today, total intra-emerging market trade between the 5 BRICS economies sits 390 billion US dollars. The target is to take that by 2015 to 500 billion US dollars.
So despite their failure to sign off on a deal, BRICS leaders concluded their summit, emphasizing their common goal being a force for change, a serious alternative to Western powers.
Tension is growing on the Korean peninsula after North Korea shut off all communication lines out of the secretive nation. Reports say the army has placed its strategic units on combat readiness with threats of possible attacks on U.S. and South Korean targets. And demonstrators in Cyprus are calling for the immediate resignation of the head of the Cypriot Central Bank. Many, as we hear in this report, in this roundup news, blame the central bank head for the recent financial crisis in Cyprus.
Running high on the Korean peninsula, North Korean state-run television announced on Tuesday that conditions were now created for an imminent nuclear war. With Kim Jong-un at the helm, the army put its strategic units on combat alert and launched fresh threats to strike targets in the U.S. and South Korea. Pyongyang has been issuing increasingly fiery threats since the UN imposed sanctions on North Korea following the North's long-range rocket launch in December and its nuclear test last month. Cypriots are furious, fearing for their jobs and the future of banking in Cyprus. Hundreds of workers from the country's largest commercial bank, the Bank of Cyprus, marched to the central bank in Nicosia on Tuesday. They demanded the resignation of Central Bank Governor Panicos Demetriades over his handling of the financial crisis. Banks remained closed for the 12th day in a row as the authorities said superhuman efforts were being made to reopen them on Thursday. Fast-moving fires spread out of control in southern Australia. Aircraft carrying water and dozens of firefighting trucks were brought in to fight the blaze fanned by strong winds in the state of Victoria. East of Adelaide, 1,500 hectares of grassland and forest burnt out of control after breaking containment lines. Firefighters are concerned that changes in the wind direction could cause the fires to spread further. Many roads have been closed, but there are no reports of homes being destroyed.
There are new restrictions in place in areas of central Myanmar where officials are trying to stop a wave of sectarian attacks. 3 townships are under dusk to dawn curfew. Groups of Buddhists have been torching Muslim homes and mosques in recent days as celebrations marking Army Day. The head of Myanmar's army vowed to maintain peace in what was, until 2011, a pariah state. We have details in this report.
Ethnic attacks began last week when rioters set fire to the city of Mekshela. Mostly Muslim-owned houses, schools and mosques were burned to the ground by angry Buddhist crowds. All of this violence was reportedly set off by a dispute between a Buddhist couple and the Muslim owner of a gold shop. Myanmar's government declared martial law. Soldiers patrolled the streets. But arson attacks by other Buddhists spread to nearby towns, forcing thousands of mostly Muslim families to flee their homes. Police were criticized for doing little to halt the violence, but officials strongly deny the allegations.
No, we're not weak in security. We have enough security personnel. They're everywhere.
This is just the latest round of sectarian violence in Myanmar as it emerges from decades of repressive military rule. The country is predominantly Buddhist. Only 4% of its nearly 55 million people are Muslim. And as the unrest highlights, ethnic relations there are fragile. Last year, clashes between Buddhist nationalists and Rohingya Muslims killed scores of people. Most of the victims were Rohingya, an ethnic group denied citizenship by Myanmar's government. Tens of thousands of them are living in makeshift camps. Many have tried to flee to neighboring countries in flimsy boats, but are usually turned back or lost at sea.
The government of Myanmar is orchestrating these crimes.
The plight of the Rohingya has attracted the attention of the online activist group Anonymous. They've posted a video online accusing Myanmar's government of backing the violence and critical of the US and the media for a perceived lack of response. But for now, the situation in Myanmar remains tense, with many fearing the ethnic violence could soon spread to Yangon. Fanula Sweeney, CNN, Atlanta.
Well, from that, a reminder of our top stories before we go. Christians in the Gambia have received an Easter gift of thousands of bags of sugar and rice from the head of state. Members of the Anti-AIDS Coalition have converged to enhance networking and partnership among stakeholders with a view to stopping mother-to-child transmission of HIV. North Korea has upped the ante and has severed all communication links to the outside world as fresh tensions sparked off by its controversial nuclear program reach a new high. And the leaders of of Brazil, China, India, Russia and South Africa have disclosed plans to set up a new leading institution to fund development projects. Well, that's your bulletin for tonight. Thanks for the pleasure of your company and enjoy the rest of our programs.